You've probably never heard of Tim Grover or Sean Foley, but Tim is the shooting coach for Michael Jordan, and Sean was the swing coach for Tiger Woods. You probably never heard of Jim Quick or Kate Ludeman, but Jim coached Elon Musk and Kate Michael Dell. You may have heard of Bill Campbell. He's been the subject of a book called The $1 Trillion Coach, which was written by the Google team about the impact that he had on their organization before he passed. Bill coached such great technology luminaries on the West Coast, such as Steve Jobs, Larry Page, Eric Schmidt, and many others. Welcome to another episode of Let's Go, the show where we created in 2020 to help the leaders of entrepreneurial companies come out of COVID stronger. Now it's all about what we're going to do in 21 and beyond to become stronger and build kick-ass teams. There's no excuses. Let's go. So what better person to talk about coaching than someone from CEO Coaching International? We have one of the studs of CEO coaching, Asha Saxena. She is a coach at COCI. She also has been the tech entrepreneur with 3 successful companies in the tech space. She is also the founder and the CEO of Women in Data and AI. She's an adjunct professor at Columbia University. She's very active in YPO, and she's very well degreed. She's got an engineering degree from Bangalore University. She's got a master's from SMU, and she also has been part of the executive programs at MIT and London Business School. Asha, thank you so much for joining me today. Great to have you on.
Thank you, Kurt. And I have to first congratulate you for creating a program for entrepreneurs. I think entrepreneurs are always hungry for learning. And I think this is a great platform for people who are in leadership roles to really learn and grow. So thank you for creating this.
You bet. Hey, there's no better place to start than today. I just realized, or you reminded me, we're here today recording on the 3rd of March. It is National Women's History Month. So I'd like to talk a little bit about that. You're a female entrepreneur, very successful one. Let's talk about that for a minute.
You know, Kurt, this is such a near and dear topic to me because I feel that there are enough smart, dedicated, intelligent women in the business world where I feel that rightfully so or not, they have challenges in corporate America. And the fact that we are now living in the world where we make that a priority to bring the gender equality at workplaces, it's such an important topic. And I think women can't do it alone. So I think we need men and women marching together to make sure the qualified candidates always get recognized and get the right spot in the, as we call it, the bus, the corporate bus.
The right people on the right seats on the bus. Well, I do want to, let's make sure we cover towards the end, after we go through some of the coaching pieces, I want to talk about what it takes to try to cultivate more successful female and diverse candidates in leadership roles, and what, old white guys like me can do to help make that happen. So let's talk about coaching for a minute. So there's an old football adage. I don't know if you're a football fan, but there's an old adage that it's not about the X's and the O's, it's about the Jimmies and the Joes, which means it's not about strategy, it's about the talent that you have on your team that's going to make you successful. But as I said before, even the most successful athletes and most successful business people have coaching throughout their career, and especially and even in their roles as executives. So let's talk about training and development and coaching through an organization. So I'd like for you to start with, we're building a team. What are some of the basics that you see are important for entrepreneurs?
Even before I answer that question, I want to talk about coaching. When I was building businesses, I was so in the game, playing the game, that I never really thought about, do I really need a coach or not? And a lot of times when you're building companies and your companies are growing, you get a little arrogant and you say, I know it all. What do I need a coach for? And now that I'm a coach, I realize how important a coach is, especially when you're doing well. When you're not doing well, you think about getting a coach because you say, I want to know what I'm missing. But when you're playing well, even Tom Brady has a coach, right? So the wins are not only because you get lucky or you're too good, but it's also about learning your blind spots. What are the micro things you can do to improve your game? And you playing the game can never see that. You really need somebody sitting outside the lines to watch you play and tell you what you're missing and how tiny improvements can improve your score. So I think that a lot of times entrepreneurs, leaders, professionals forget that the importance of getting a coach, especially when they're trying to climb the ladder in the professional world.
You touched on some great things there, Asha, and I want to add or ask. So when I think about, and a lot of us think about coaches, we think about very expensive executive coaches for the CEO. I think, first of all, we should be thinking about beyond the CEO. So other members of the organization absolutely need coaching in order to progress their career and their skill set. But also, I think there's a hidden gem out there of people that you're not paying large sums of money to be a coach. Maybe it's a mentor. mentor. Maybe it's somebody that you can lean on for some advice. What would you say to that?
So very first thing is that the company will only grow as long as its leadership team grows. So investing in yourself is so critical, because if the day you stop investing in yourself, your company will start struggling. So the CEO needs to invest in themselves to make sure that they're excelling, but they also need to invest in their people, the leadership team, the managers, and the frontline worker, to make sure they're constantly learning and growing. Listen, I'm a coach, and what I now know about coaching, I never knew about coaching when I was running the company. As a coach, you get really invested in your people. So I care about my CEOs more about them when they're playing the game. Like, my heart is beating fast when they're playing the game. Like, I'm having sleepless nights if they're having a struggling day. So having somebody who watches out for you like that is so important. The people, you can be the CEO, the management team can be the mentor and coaches for their teams and their people. And that's what your team is looking for, is the mentorship from the leadership. When you are in the role of a manager, you're not a warrior. You're not going in the field and fighting the war. You're the one thinking about strategies, and you're helping your team grow. It's all about win-win, right? If your team is not winning, you can never win. So instead of saying that, oh, my team is not capable, or my team is not producing too much, or go work too hard, and not really thinking about the human element. And that's why I talk about, a man and a woman leader needs both the skill, the feminine and masculine skills. So you need to know how to bring your compassionate side, the nurturing side for your team when you're in the mentorship mode. And when you're in the mode of really executing and you're going go, you need that masculine side to make sure you have the discipline to execute. So having that complete package as a leader is critical. And that is in a definition of an external coach who comes and helps you put that together, or you become that coach for your team to make sure you're nurturing your team, which is really critical to success.
I'd love to stay on that topic for a second, and let me give some backdrop. So obviously, Hire Better, we're in the recruiting business. And so people think, well, you just want to add people to the team. Reality is, entrepreneurial companies need to be able to cultivate their own talent. And so I can't tell you how many times we've looked at an organization who wants to hire a CFO, and we say, your VP of finance has some potential. What if we invest in a coach for that person? I'd like to talk to you a little bit about that. One is, many entrepreneurs, and I'm just looking in the mirror when I say this, I'm not a great cultivator of talent. I just throw the team out there and say, let's go. I have an operating partner, Cisco, who's our CEO now, who is a coach of people and helps bring them up and make them more successful. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurial companies are lacking that coach mentality, that management mentality, and helping people further their careers. Any comments on that, and especially how we can cultivate our own talent versus going and adding people from the outside all the time?
So I think, Kurt, you brought up a really, really great point. I don't know if the audience caught that or not, is that self-awareness. So you said, I am good at this and I'm not good at that. So how many leaders can actually stand up and say, I am really not good at building my people? So it also becomes an ego issue, right? So you say, my ego says that I'm good at all of it. So I think the recognition or being self-aware is also a very important skill as a leader, to say, I'm going to step away because I am not probably the best person to deliver on this. So that's the one thing, is self-awareness. The second thing is, Kurt, that I've used and our company uses TTI, which is a talent assessment tool, but you can use any assessment tool to understand. If you struggle to recognize, you can use a tool to understand what is my strength and what's my weakness. And I talk about, I'm a big fan of Jim Collins' books, and Jim Collins talks about having the right person in the right seat. So you hire the person thinking they are right for this position, but you really don't know what their strengths are. So using a tool like, there are several tools out there in the market, any kind of DISC profile, really understanding what the strengths and weaknesses are of your team and making sure that they're in the right spot. And stepping away when you are not doing the right thing by your team is a great example.
Well, you're giving me a lot of credit there. I had a lot of people tell me along the way that I wasn't any good at it. So it just helped me become more self-aware.
That's very cool.
Hey, so let's talk a little bit about if somebody's been with you for a long time and perhaps now they're in the wrong seat. Any strategies that you've seen work well when you're trying to move people around or find the right role for them?
When I was running my business, I used to have, a couple of people had mentioned to me, Asha, the talent you have is that recognizing that somebody's not right for the role, instead of kicking them out, you reposition really well. So I think it's really listening to your team, listening to your people. And they say great leaders are great listeners. So you're listening not to react, but to really understand. So I think listening to your people and understanding what they're really good at, not only kind of focusing on. And you know what? I will tell you, when I was running the businesses, I would get into that mode where I would be thinking about, why is this not done? I need this done right. And getting in that, mode, because you have to deliver. You can't sit there and watch every person. So you get in that mode of really rushing into things. But I would say that as a great leader, if you start listening truly and understanding what your people are performing well and what they're not performing well, and then start positioning. I also say that quarterly planning sessions, which the rhythm. Every business has a healthy business rhythm. And what is a healthy business rhythm? It's really making sure that you do an annual planning session, which means you plan for the whole year and say what my goals are and how we're going to get there. Not only just strategy, but tactical outcome. And then you revisit every quarter. And then you revisit that every month and every week. But during your monthly and quarterly sessions, you want to revisit your team. And you want to say, is my team in the right place? Where are they struggling? How do I build my people to be successful? You can only do so much, right? If a company like yours, Kurt, can get the best person for an organization, but if they don't nurture and they don't make sure they invest in their career growth. See, one thing is to hire good people, but retention and growth of the individual and satisfaction is so critical. I have some of my clients who are now checking NPS scores for employees, internal employees, not just the customers. And that's a great place to start. Just see what your employees are saying to you.
Asha, I love what you just said that right there. There's a piece that you said that really resonated with me. You said, let's try to understand the strengths and weaknesses of our team and try to help them put them in the right role. One mistake I see with a lot of entrepreneurs is they simply ask the person, well, what do you want to do? Let's try to put you in a place where you're happy. And while that's very nice at some levels, at the same time, it doesn't really work that way. Well, I want to try HR. Well, let's go make you the leader of the HR group. So what would you say to that? Have you seen that in some of your entrepreneurial endeavors?
Oh, absolutely. This is something, it's a common mistake entrepreneurs make is, this person wants this and I want to make this person happy. He's been a good performer. This happens a lot in sales, where a sales rep is a really good rep and I want to be a manager. You make them a manager and they fail big time in manager positions because they're motivated by closing deals. So yeah, it's a very common thing. And I think that's why it's important for a leader to be intuitive. And that's why we say that maybe that skill, it's a skill you might not have. You use the tools and techniques and tricks of the trade and best practices. And you can go out to get, assessments done. You can go out and, as I said, get a coach who will evaluate before you position somebody in the right position. So on this first part is being aware of what you're not good at. Second is depending on the tools and technology. I mean, technology really is great because not only it optimizes for you, it gives you intelligence. So if you can use the technology as a power to really understand, and listen, I am a data person. I build companies based on data and I talk about measure everything. What you measure gets done. If you're not measuring, it's not going to happen. So also, you can use the tools and techniques to start measuring the performance of people, and that's a really important thing. I was talking to a CEO yesterday and we were talking about, I said, what's the number for the head of sales? What's the number they're aiming for? He said X amount. And I said, okay, how are they going to get there? They're like, about 10 great conversation a week, a month. Then he's like, okay, maybe 5 a week, 10 in 2 weeks. And I'm like, okay, with 5 conversation, he can close a deal. He's like, maybe we need 10 conversation to have 5 good conversations. So not clear, right? So if you don't have clarity in exactly how you're measuring your success, your people are not going to be delivering the results.
Definitely a key, clarity and goals for sure. Hey, when we were talking the other day, you mentioned the difference between coaching and training, and you also talked about taking care of yourself first. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I thought it was very astute.
Yeah. So 2 things. Coaching is somebody who's watching you play the game, and training is when you go out and actually learn the skill and keep getting better. So you want to make sure that you're investing not only in coaching, but also training your people. And when I had my data management consulting firm, we used to do Learning Fridays. And Learning Fridays was cross-functional teams coming together and teaching the different teams. So it could be a finance team teaching your sales team Excel. Salespeople hate Excel. Finance people are always depending on Excel. So on Fridays, we'll bring the pizza in. And now in the virtual world, you could have, whatever you want. But you can have a Learning Fridays where the cross-functional teams come together and teach each other a new skill. What you're really doing is you're investing, you're paying forward. Now the employees and the teams feel that they're contributing to the growth of the company. So there's a value, right? The world we live in now, everybody's looking for a purpose. Everybody's looking to see how I'm contributing to the higher good. So now you're creating a platform where teams from finance can come teach something to sales can come and teach something to marketing, and your cross-functional teams is really paying forward every Friday. And it's an hour of giving back to your team members. So that could be learning and training. Coaching, as I said, could be an external coach, or you could have internal coaching programs or internal mentoring programs. A leader can say, I'm a chief of staff or I'm a CFO, and I'm happy to mentor somebody who's junior in my division or cross-functional. It could be a salesperson. And another thing, really important thing, we spoke about the women leaders. It is also important that men are mentoring women leaders and women leaders are mentoring men employees, professionals. So the cross-functional mentoring is also important, not only the similar gender. I mean, of course, a senior woman leader mentoring a junior woman leader is great because they can open up and talk about different challenges within the organization, but also cross-gender mentoring and coaching is also very, very beneficial in organizations.
Nice. We talked a little bit about having a coach. What does it look like when you have a good coach or a bad coach? What are some of the attributes that you typically see?
I've had some bad coaches and I've had some good coaches, and I'll share with you from my experience. I've had coaches where they'll come in and they'll say, I need upfront 6 months fee, or I need upfront money for whatever, without proving anything. And I love working with Mark, the organization I'm part of. And I tell you, I was working with a client, and the client came to me and said, Asha, I have to put a pause because of some financial issues due to, the COVID. And because the monthly billing happens the first of the month, I went back to accounting and I said to Mark, how does this work? Like, if, now they're putting us on hold, but we already charged them. And the thing was pay the money back, refund it without any questions. Even though I had told her during the time of the hold, you can always call me anytime. So what I realized, when coaches are only focused on prepayment of the total, it's very frustrating, because when I hired a coach and I prepaid, and during the coaching, I realized I was getting no benefit, but I was stuck. Number two, when I feel that a coach is not really vested in my growth, I don't feel when a coach is not emotionally really invested in my success, is a terrible coach. I feel like when I am coaching, I am really invested in, I feel like I'm bonded to my CEO, and their success matters to me more than any amount of dollar number on the monthly bill. So for me, it becomes my personal, and especially the culture we have in our organization is all about value. So for me, if I'm not giving the value, I don't want a client. And I think that's such an important thing to know, that a coach should really be focusing on the value they're creating for their CEOs, not so much about the dollar amount they're charging. So I think that's number one, is if they're truly vested in your organization, your success, your personal growth. Number two, if they're really moving the needle. I always say to my CEO clients, if I'm not giving value, I'm going to walk. I will not take even $1 from you if I'm not adding value. Multiply. I want to make sure that I'm multiplying the value for every single dollar you invest in coaching. And if it's not there, for me, that dollar is not important. So I think that's the kind of commitment you want from a coach, is feeling that they're batting for me no matter what I do.
Well, I feel the passion in your voice, and what I tend to see from the best coaches is the passion for what they're doing, and they're mission driven. They're typically not driven by dollars, whether it's their own or their companies, but it's the mission that they're on, to be servant leaders and pay it forward, so to speak.
Yeah,
that's what I see.
I love what you just said, that the mission for coaching is so important. Kurt, I feel like when you're running a business, it was great running your own business, but it's always constantly challenges and numbers and people and customers and product. But when, as a coach, you feel like you're really creating an impact. As a coach, I can have an impact on small items which I see, which the CEO is missing. And very quickly, in 2 to 3 months, I can start seeing the difference. So it's really gratifying. It's like truly like when the CEO does what we plan on, and they execute on my advice, it's the gratification is at the next level. So the fact that as a CEO coach, you can not only impact on the CEO, but on the business and the employees is a lot more valuable than anything else.
Nice. I love it. Thank you so much, Asha. So let's shift gears slightly. We talked about earlier about the concept of diversity in an organization. And I'd like to say something perhaps controversial, and I'll tell you why. I don't want to attack it from a diversity and inclusion because we're being told to do it perspective. I want to look at it from a diversity because it makes our organization stronger perspective. So as a result, we're doing both things. So can we talk about ethnicity and age and culture and sex and industry diversity to make our organization stronger?
So Kurt, first of all, thank you for saying that. That is very meaningful because I had a woman who just got a promotion, and the blitz went out, like a little blast went out, where they said, oh, we hired a first woman in this position, and we're very proud that we hired a woman. And so they were celebrating the woman and not the candidate. And the woman leader who got promoted was really, really offended. And she said, what, did I get this position because I'm a woman, not because I'm qualified? And she's like, I don't want this position then. I only want the position if I'm qualified. I don't want a charity. And so what happens is, even if the woman is qualified, when you start saying it's a position, we're giving it to a woman, you demean that person and the position. So I really want to thank you for acknowledging that it should not be about the gender or the ethnicity. It should be about really bringing diversity to make your team strong. There are multiple researches which has been published where they talk about diversity makes a company strong because it's diversity of ideas, diversity of age, diversity of ethnicity. All different diversity brings different thoughts, different ideas, which a company needs for nourishment. And if you don't have the diversity, if everybody looked the same, everybody was the same people, there will be no diversity of thought and ideas, and innovation will not happen. Innovation happens only when you have diversity of thoughts and ideas and you're thinking out of the box. What I'm really saying is that to be successful in an organization, you want to make sure that there's diversity. Now, as a woman, I'm taking a stand that you should have more women on the leadership role. As a minority, you can take a stand as a minority. As a white male, you can take a stand for age. Doesn't matter what you speak about. You can stand for women. You can stand for whatever you choose that matters to you. But we all need to have a voice and an opinion. We all need to care about something, and that could be anything. Diversity is important.
I'm glad you said that at the end, because I don't want to be the cheerleader for the old white guy. I want to be the cheerleader for other folks. And I think we asked earlier about what guys like me could do. And I think part of it is coaching and mentoring and with folks that don't look like us, but it's also taking a chance on folks that don't look like us. And I think that will not only, it's the right thing to do, but it will make your organization stronger. It'll make just our fabric of social life much stronger.
And I think, Kurt, what you said correctly is that take a chance. And a lot of people don't take a chance because they feel it's risky. Everybody's comfort zone is, you look like me, so I'm comfortable in that zone because I know you'll talk my language and you'll talk my thoughts and there'll be no argument because we all will say the same thing. So you don't want to take a chance because that's your comfort zone naturally. So the question is, what can you do, Kurt, or somebody who looks different than a woman or different than, ethnicity? What could you do is to stand for somebody different than you and support that person and support the idea and be a positive change.
Love it. I love it. So let's go to a couple of quick questions here before we close. The first question is a fun question, and it's I didn't prep you for it, so let's see what I'm going to get. The first one is, tell us something about you that we wouldn't learn from reading your LinkedIn profile. Something personal.
I'm very proud of it. It was such a fun thing. I was born in of course, Indian family, and my parents wanted me to be a doctor and an engineer, but I had a passion for journalism. And I actually, at the age of 15 or 16, I was doing interviews on radio and on television in Delhi Doordarshan.
Nice. All right. Very cool. All right. So rapid fire questions. First thing that comes to mind pretty quickly. Number one, why'd you get into coaching?
I took a chance.
All right.
And I wanted to try it.
Number two, do you have a favorite coaching client?
I do. And I have a client who is very disciplined and execute on everything I talk about.
My next question should have been, who is it? But I won't put you on the spot on that one. All right, next one. What is your number one tip for most of your coaching clients?
It's to be disciplined. It's hard to be disciplined, but really getting in the habit of being disciplined is critical.
All right. Next one. You're based in New York, so Yankees or Mets?
Yankees, always.
All right. I hate the Yankees, but okay, I still love you. All right. Lastly, who is your favorite CEO coaching partner?
It's very hard to say. They're all so great. Like if I would think of one, as you asked that question, names were popping in my head. And so there are too many to count.
See, I knew you were going to take that route. All right. So is there anything else you'd like to add before we close? Asha, I really appreciate you coming on.
I I would just say that, always do your best. You can't always worry about what people say, what competitors are doing. As long as you're building a strong company, strong culture, take care of your people, take care of your vendors, take care of your customers. Ultimately, building a business is about building people. So always work and do the best you can. Do the best you can to build your people and invest in your people.
Great advice. Great advice. Asha, thank you so much for joining us today. Really love what you and the CEO Coaching International team are doing to promote coaching for entrepreneurs and executives. Really keep up the great work. And to all of you out there, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Let's Go. We're going to be back next time. We're going to continue this subject of mentoring, coaching, training, and development with Susie Sosa, who is a good friend, and she is a great entrepreneurial leader here in Austin for Verb. So until next time, no excuses, and let's go.